I think solutions engineering is really kind of in a pinnacle to help lead companies forward through the AI transformation.
Yeah.
We typically have, sort of the curiosity or the tinkership or the skills to be able to do that and then bring people along on a journey, because that's what we do every day with our customers is, talking to customers about solutions, solving business problems, and bringing them along with a story. And so that's been a really exciting career opportunity for me right now at Alteryx. And I think every solutions engineering leader has that opportunity right now to take up that space at their company.
Sharon, welcome to the Go-to-Market Shift.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I love your color choice today.
Thank
I'm glad
you.
that we're in the greens today.
Yeah, me too. Something in the universe.
I just found out that apparently millennials love the color of green. It's like the new beige.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that until our last interview right before this.
Good to know. I learned something.
I know. It's so good to have you on here, and I'm so excited to talk about so many different topics today. With your background and your leadership and what you've been able to accomplish, I think there's a lot of people who want to hear your point of view, especially as it relates to AI transformation.
Fantastic.
Before we go there, though, I think you've had an incredible journey. So why don't you talk a little bit about where you started and what actually got you to Alteryx today?
All right, sounds good. So I actually was here in the Silicon Valley during the first dot-com boom, so late 90s and early 2000s. I went to school here and I ended up getting my first job at Sun Microsystems, which was a pretty transformative company at the time. Yeah. And I actually started in product, which is kind of different than where I am now in a go-to-market leadership role. But I think it helped me sort of navigate go-to-market better and sort of understand the perspective of product. And then I jumped over to Cisco Systems, where I really learned about the role of solutions engineering. They have a pretty advanced kind of train and SE program. I went through that and then did 10 or 12 years of sales engineering in a variety of different roles with different segments and different technology specialists. It's a $50 billion company. So I had a long run there of different SE and SE leadership roles. And I was in my final role there. I was in a public sector director role, a third line role, running a $2 billion public sector business, which I loved. I love working in the public sector. And then a point came where I thought, I'm either going to retire here or I need to sort of jump off and do something different. And I knew some folks at Alteryx, the CRO at the time, and got pulled over to Alteryx. And, it's been a blast. I joined Alteryx when it was public, and we're acquired by private equity, and we're undergoing a pretty big private equity transformation. And I've gotten to learn a lot about, new products, SaaS and analytics and AI. And also undergone a lot of organizational leadership and organizational change as well. So it's been fantastic. I often tell people I've gotten more experience in the last probably 4 years at Alteryx than I did 10 at Cisco. But Cisco gave me a incredible foundation, a PhD in operations and a PhD in leadership. And then I was really able to come and apply it at Alteryx.
Fantastic. I love your journey and I love your story. And when you were talking about your Cisco journey, I was like, wow, that's such a great foundation in systems and operations. And even having a $2 billion business line in public sector, I mean, that's a big business.
Yeah, Cisco's great at that.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me kind of jumping a little bit into the spicy world, is like, what's it like being part of the PE transformation? Because a lot of times leaders, at least in my network, they'll reach out to me like, oh, my company just got bought by PE. I'm looking for a new job. They kind of jump to rush to say, oh my gosh, this is the worst case scenario. But there's so many other situations where it's very positive for the business.
Yeah, I agree. So let me talk a little bit about my journey. I mean, when I first knew that was coming, the first thing I did was educate myself what the PE world is. There's a fantastic book by Adam Coffey called The Private Equity Playbook. And it really helped me understand what running a great PE business looks like and what ownership is looking for, so that I would know how to show up and, speak the language that they were speaking and understand how they viewed success. So I think that helped set me up, to be successful day one during the transaction. I always tell my team, I think being part of a PE company, especially in leadership, are absolute career building years. You really have exposure to leaders in PE firms that have a lot of experience turning companies around, driving success, getting the greatest executives in. This has been such a memorable part of my career that I think since the acquisition, I've been able to learn and grow the most as a leader and as well as a business owner. Like this has really helped me strengthen my skills in terms of cross-functional alignment with other key stakeholders in the
Yeah.
organization, and also increase my relevance and my own communication skills with the C-suite and our board as well. So it can be scary. There's
Yeah.
a lot of sort of can be negativity in the market about it. But I think if you take the time to educate yourself, understand what it means, understand what they're trying to drive, be empathetic with what they're trying to drive, and then drive it, you can really position yourself for real long-term career success
Yeah.
in the private equity world.
Oh, I love that answer, right? I think that the motivation that you have to, take initiative and figure out everyone's incentives and how you drive to those incentives. I think that's what I've learned the most in my career is like incentives drive behaviors at every single level humanly possible,
Right,
especially the PE's companies.
right. Like, what are they trying to do?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about that, right?
Yeah.
Because you said there's a playbook, and there typically is a PE playbook, and when a PE firm acquires you, you can look at their portfolio and see their historic success. So like, what's the time horizon? What has worked? What has not
Exactly.
worked? So, you made a really interesting comment there about cross collaboration. So I think this is something that, in talking to you previously, is a big bet for you, right? So as you're going through this AI transformation in your business, how are you as an executive thinking about cross collaboration, to make sure that the business is rowing in the right direction, in the same direction, I should say?
It's a great question. Before I dig into some of my thoughts on it, I'll share a little bit of the background. So, Alteryx and our CEO have a goal to drive 20% efficiency and productivity with AI within the
Okay.
organization.
Okay. Great goal.
As much as possible. And I love the way that we're doing it because we're doing it through, tinkering and innovation and getting technology in the hands of every single employee to
Amazing.
be able to make their day better, make their day more
Yeah.
fun, make their day
Yeah.
easier. So I love how we're doing it and getting employees engaged. In terms of the, go-to-market cross-functional stakeholdership, I think solutions engineering or sales engineering, however you label it, is at a really interesting intersection right now
Yeah.
between go-to-market, between product, and between RevOps. I think solutions engineers always have a little bit of a unicorn skill set in being able to show up and be relevant and know how to communicate with each of those groups,
Yeah.
but still have the type of technical acumen, that can build credibility with product leaders. So I think in our roles, it's incredibly important to build that stakeholdership and that alignment. And I think I tell my organization this all the time. I think solutions engineering is really kind of in a pinnacle to help lead companies forward through the AI transformation.
Yeah.
And I think my organization is doing that at Alteryx right now. And I think solutions engineering leaders should view their organization as the organization that will lead
Yeah.
companies through that AI transformation. Because we typically have, sort of the curiosity or the tinkership or the skills to be able to do that and then
Sure.
bring people along on a journey. Because that's what we do every day with our customers
Yeah.
is, talking to
Yeah.
customers about solutions, solving business problems, and bringing them along with a story. And so that's been a really exciting kind of career opportunity for me right now at Alteryx. And I think every solutions engineering leader has that opportunity right now to take up that space at their company.
Oh, so many things I want to unpack there. I just love that answer. Let's take the mindset of a solutions leader that understands that they're at that pinnacle of change right now. I think from my purview and viewpoint now of like running go to market, being a CRO, talking to folks in the space, I'm still feeling a little bit of hesitancy from the profession generally, right? I think there's a little bit of, well, what's our role? How's it changing? How's it evolving? I think to your point, it can be a massive change driver within the organization. So how have you been able to kind of flip the mental switch for your business?
I think, the first thing definitely needs to be overcoming fear and helping everybody in the company understanding that AI is complementary and not going to
Yes.
take their job. So, that's a very, very big step. So, educating people, helping people understand, helping them understand how to use it, helping them understand how it can complement their job, not take their job, so they can actually be super powered to do the
Yeah,
task that they
absolutely.
like. So that's probably sort of the first step is understanding and having every employee and every function kind of have an aha moment
Yeah.
of like, okay,
Yeah.
I get this now. This just made my life easier. Now, how can I start viewing this as my SE companion or my SE complement?
Sure.
and it's coming. Like, the reality is you have to embrace it and understand it. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. And we see companies. I was just looking at a company called One Mind, who has sort of a superpowered AI human. I call her Mindy, that can engage in sales calls.
Yeah.
And I think in 5 years, every meeting or every even sales call will have a concept of a AI person who's has contacts and might be helping to make decisions and is probably doing a lot more than taking notes. And I think we have to be okay with that shift and
Yeah.
sort of going there and understanding that, this is probably the biggest technology shift we've ever been through as
Yeah.
human beings. And it's better to embrace and understand
Yeah.
than to kind of hope it's not going to happen and put your head in the sand.
Yeah, I love that response, and I wish more people had that type of mentality with their orgs and their businesses. Have you mandated AI days? Have you mandated certain tooling? Obviously with the CEO level directive, how are you manifesting that in the solutions organization?
I haven't taken the tactic of mandating it because I want it to feel really organic and
Yeah.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a couple of things that we've done. In my org, we implemented a AI specialist team, so the core solutions engineers that like really loved this and were really stepping up
Yeah.
and, wanted to feed their curiosity. We at our revenue kickoff, we held an event and said, if you want to be more involved, raise your hand.
Oh,
We got all
amazing.
the hand raisers part of a group, and they're sort of becoming that catalyst within the organization that's sort of, bringing their peers along and innovating. So, they're working on a lot of things. They're working on, things that help improve our internal productivity and efficiency and, creating GPTs and other things
Yeah.
like that. And then part of the group is also functioned or focused on, how are we continuing to build our demonstration skill set
Yeah.
around AIs and
Yeah.
tweaking our demonstration skill set so that's more external focused. We have some that are working with our product team on, really influencing our product direction with AI. And so after we sort of got that, groundswell
Yeah.
within solutions engineering, we're seeing that now, other groups are kind of seeing what we're doing
Yeah.
and we're infiltrating into other go-to-market organizations as we do. And the next step is to build an agentic COE at
Okay.
Alteryx.
Love
And,
that.
solutions engineering and go-to-market can't be the hub of that. You need,
Right.
Your IT or
Sure.
CTO to run that,
Yeah.
but we can be, the first spoke and the strongest spoke. And so that's my current body of work now is working with our CTO. His name is Arvind, who's going to head up our agentic COE to kind of really be his big and strongest, spoke of,
Yeah.
how AI and agentic AI is playing out
Okay.
in Alteryx. And then, each functional department will feed that hub.
Okay.
So we're defining, what technologies, what foundations,
Yeah.
what's our vocabulary for how we talk about this at Alteryx,
I love
things
that.
like that.
I was going to ask you that question, right? Is like every department having their own, but I think the COE is a great concept and a great model that I think was prevalent maybe a decade or decade and a half ago and kind of went away. And I feel like it's coming back a bit as well. I'm very interested in some of the tactics here, right? So when you said, hey, we're going to create this AI team and people raised their hand,
Yeah.
what was the pitch? What was the pitch to the team of being like, are you, building processes to make everyone's job easier? Like, what was that like?
Trying to think back. So we did this at our revenue kickoff, and it was when I was launching a couple of different specialist teams.
Yeah.
Because I also feel that, part of career progression for SEs and impact and exposure for SEs is you sort of need to rise out of your day-to-day role to have a bigger impact beyond just what you're doing with your customers.
Sure.
Like you need opportunities at your company to have an impact and say, I did this, 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 and this, just for career progression, whether, you're kind of going the principal or distinguished route or you're going the leadership route or the AE route, you kind of need wins beyond your day-to-day job
Yeah.
to excel in promotions and other opportunities. So I wanted to create, opportunities in the SE organization to specialize. And the three that were most obvious that stood out were AI, just because our industry is going a massive transformation. We launched a competitive team, so how to compete and deliver durable differentiation in the market.
Love
and then
that.
a security team, because cybersecurity
Yeah.
it even matters in analytics.
Yeah.
And what's interesting? I didn't have to pitch it too much. I think AI has been so exciting that most SEs were actually chomping at the bit to learn more.
Amazing.
Because that's how we're wired. But I guess I come back to maybe it was around, how to grow your career, impact your career, get bigger visibility, solve company level problems, not just, problems in your own role. Be part of something. People want to, be part of something bigger. And I think it was an opportunity to kind of like latch onto something that was fun and innovative, and then be part of something that mattered to our CEO, for that visibility.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing pitch, and I think our solutions profession has so many tinkerers in there, right? People have been doing their own processes and workflows and using AI. Is the metric on the KPI for those teams aligned to the CEO initiative as well?
Yes, absolutely. Everything's aligned. Every level down.
Let's talk about that, right? Because I think as much as easy as it's said, it's very hard to be done, right? So you have a CEO level initiative that is cascading throughout the business. How has that changed how you look at accountability, responsibility, and the success of your organization?
It's a good question. Through my career, I've been through like varying levels of operational frameworks, and I've seen them work in varying different ways. So like OKRs or KPIs. Our CEO, Andy McMillan, introduced a format that was used at Salesforce called V2 Mom.
Yep.
So this is part of his V2 Mom. So, vision, value, metrics, methods, things like that. And what I've learned is a lot of times these frameworks, you sort of write it down once and then you revisit it sort of 12 months later. And what we do really well at Alteryx is the V2 Mom is really kind of part of day-to-day and week-to-week life. So, I'm looking at it daily, weekly, monthly. Andy's always talking about it. The C-suite is always talking about it. The next level down, we grade ourselves on it and show it to the entire organization. Like, where are we doing well on things? Where are we not doing so well on things? So I think it's, as leaders, you have to, in a fun way as possible, keep your operational framework alive, and then show the alignment back to the CEO, and then show the organization how you're doing. Alteryx also had every employee be part of it. So when Andy joined Alteryx, he put his V2 Mom out there and had employees comment and edit on the dot. I think you have to make like people part of this thing. Otherwise, they're not going to really care or feel connected to it. So for solutions engineering, for example, I did the same thing. I using AI, created a structure of what I thought we needed to, be focused on, and then every sales engineer had some comments on it, and now it's everyone's, right? And we all own these metrics together, and we look at them regularly. We discuss them in one-on-ones. I'll grade ourselves and show it in all hands and talk about what we need to do in our red, yellow area. So it's got to be part of the culture. The KPIs really need to be part of the culture, and you really have to like live it as a leader.
Sure. Yeah. Shared value, shared language, making sure everyone's continuing. It's almost like it's so repetitive for the individual contributor at the end of the day that they're like, oh my gosh, like I hear it so much, but it's how everyone gets bought in. And
yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like one of the biggest lessons I've learned as a leader is how often you have to communicate and sort of repeat yourself for things to really take hold within an organization. So then the organization can kind of, build momentum and be that flywheel. You just got to repeat yourself a lot.
It's a very good call out. So as we continue to dig on this topic, right, what are the technical metrics and KPIs and the V2 Mom that you're leading as the head of solutions?
It's a great question. I actually just went through a monthly operation review with our C-suite. So every month, the C-suite asks the next level down to talk about the organization and how you're running the day-to-day.
Amazing.
And I think that's an incredible opportunity to show off solutions engineering, kind of coming back to this idea that we can really be the pinnacle of what's moving the organization through this age of AI. So there's really, kind of three things in my, day-to-day that kind of map back to my V2 Mom and the CEO's V2 Mom. And the first one is around teamwork excellence. So that's one pillar of what great looks like. And that's one thing to always make sure your organization understands is, what does great look like to you and your organization? So we have three pillars around those that then map back to my V2 Mom, that then map back to my metrics. So the teamwork piece that I decided to focus on was the concept of how we work with sales in our technical close process, which is the idea of an SE moving an opportunity through different stages to get to a technical win, and sort of how they're working with Salesforce to do that. So I showed a little bit of that. The second pillar that I wanted to show was our technical acumen. We're very much, solutions engineering is moving very fast right now with what technical knowledge we need to know.
Yeah.
In my world at Alteryx, it's a lot around our hyperscaler ecosystem around us.
Okay.
We have to be conversationally excellent enough in the
Yeah.
hyperscalers as well as the cloud data platform
Yep.
space, as well as our own technology. So we've very much been focused on third-party badges around, the three major hyperscaler certifications, as
Sure.
well as Snowflake, Databricks, and BigQuery.
Great.
So talked a little bit about our technical acumen. I have a specialist team as well that's focused on AI. So they are a 100% AI all the time team. And they are definitely, leaning into some of these really emerging AI certifications as well. And the last is revenue performance. So this year we introduced which is uncommon right now in solutions engineering, but I would say gaining momentum. Last year, in partnership with private equity, we introduced a individual contributor goal for every solutions engineer.
Okay.
So usually solutions engineers sort of have their team
Yep.
goal,
Yep.
no IC goal, unless, they're a global sales engineer or something like
Sure.
that, where they're mapped to one rep and one account.
Sure.
But every solutions engineer in the org has an individual contributor goal.
Okay.
So, I discussed with the C-suite how we look at, backward-looking revenue performance, which is revenue booked by SE, and then forward-looking revenue performance, which is pipeline by SE.
Amazing.
And there's so much story behind the dashboard, right? The story isn't the dashboard.
Yeah.
The story is like the day-to-day running of the business and how you're coaching people up, and who's new and how fast they're developing. That's the story. It's not the dashboard.
Well,
so those three areas.
Okay, I have so many questions on this, but that one very specific one is, how did the team respond to that individual metric, forward-looking and backward-looking?
I would say mixed. I think, in solutions engineers, you always have a range.
Yes.
Like there's ones that are, incredibly salesy and are almost the AE or could be the AE, and then some that are sort of incredibly technical and maybe sometimes feel disconnected from the sales process, or it doesn't come as natural to be part of a sales process. So I think it was overall mixed, and I think it's still mixed, that it's a big thing to introduce to a solutions engineering organization. But, what it did drive, which is what part of the reasoning that I worked with private equity to do this, is a real ownership in solutions engineering of revenue.
Yes.
And that is one thing that everybody can agree on.
Yeah.
Is that, being part of the sales organization and having accountability to revenue, and it really drove that.
Yeah.
And so even though it is uncomfortable for some,
of course,
it drives the accountability and the ownership, and everybody did agree on that
Good.
We do want to be part of revenue, and this is part of it.
Yeah. Thank you for that response, and put me in that camp, right? I think I've taken a lot of heat over the years for pushing for these types of incentive plans and comp plans, but I believe if you're running a business and looking at a business, it's a really good way to incentivize performance, and it's a really good way to keep costs down and make it performance-based.
Right. Pay for performance-based culture.
Really what it is, and us in the solution profession, people say that's, well, I don't want to carry quota, that's why I'm in solutions and not accounts. Like, our job is still revenue. Our job is customer experience, right? And the teams only grow if you're performing and you're producing. And I think, leaders need to be more willing to take a risk on that to be able to help their teams grow. That's been my personal opinion. There's plenty of people who disagree with me on that, but I think that is a fundamental shift I believe will happen over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and with, AI coming in and this, One Mind company that I'm looking at, I think it's even more important to grow yourself and be okay with these uncomfortable things happening, and to continue growing yourself, growing your skills, being okay, being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's just going to rise up even more in our age of AI.
Yeah, I agree. So my question for being uncomfortable and vulnerable is, how did your read back to the C-suite go? How did you do?
It went great, actually. And
Fantastic.
what I love about our C-suite, everything's, very flexible. There wasn't this big, heavy deck I had to prepare. That feels very legacy and 90s to me. So it was very, dashboard driven, just, pull some things up and tell some stories, which felt like a much more natural way to, I kind of use it as advertising my organization in terms of what we do and our impact. So it went great. I think I had great feedback.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That always feels good.
It
right?
did. Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit as we think about, you're talking about your AI transformation for your team, but as a business, right? This is a major change for Alteryx. So can you tell me a little bit more about the shift that is happening at your business?
Yeah, we are thinking about a lot of things. We've been in the data business for over 20 years.
Wow.
Which I think positions us very well to be at the center of AI. I think there's sort of two things happening with our customers and with the industry right now that are going to be really disruptive to Alteryx in a good way, and really disruptive to technology in a good way. One of these is what ChatGPT and others have allowed us to do is to talk to data in different ways using natural language. Like never before were we really able to relate with data in a conversational way.
Right.
And I won't get into details, but Alteryx knows a lot about this, but a lot has to happen behind the scenes to make that great for a business user.
Right.
You know, you have to have the right access to systems, you have to have the right systems talking to each other, you have to have the right security and governance controls, you know, behind that. Like you probably shouldn't be asking questions of HR systems, for example. So there's a lot, you know, of logic that goes into that. That's Alteryx's background, is that logic. So we're doing a lot around being the logic behind how a business user can talk to their data. So that's one massive shift, is the expectation of professionals to simply be able to talk to their data, and they're going to trust that it's right.
Yes.
Right? They're not going to, they need to be able to trust that there's no hallucination there. They need to be able to trust that they have the proper permissions. They're going to have to be able to trust that they have the full story, not just part of the system, because there was only, you know, one system connected to the logic. So I think, you know, that is one piece happening. And then the other large conversation we're having at Alteryx and the industry in general is around agentic AI and this concept of, like, we've been really used to these 20 years SaaS UIs, you name it, right?
Yep.
And, you know, what is agentic AI going to do with that? I mean, under the covers, what does next business process engineering look like? And is it really, you know, kind of an army of agents? Then what does the UI look like? So in my world, we're doing a lot of rethinking around, you know, how does the user work with the application? How does the user work with data? And then what is all the logic and security and governance behind the scenes to make that happen? And that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now. It is so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It's such a fascinating topic. So Brett Queener at Bonfire Ventures, early stage Salesforce, was on this interview series and talked about how the UI is going away, right? He's always talked that why should you go into an app and click 5 or 6 things to get to a report that you need to customize? You should just be able to ask it, right? As a CRO, I want to be able to say, you know, what's my pipeline performance, you know, this quarter versus the last 2 quarters, right? And to that point, the trust has to be so high.
Right.
And so how are you all thinking that as a business? Because, you know, I feel like that trust is the most important currency that we have today.
Yeah.
And trust in data is where it looks like things are going to go. So how as a business are you all thinking about that?
It's a great question. And this is how, you know, sometimes, because Cisco isn't a 20-year-old company, Alteryx is as well, you know, that positions you as, you know, both a leader and Achilles heel. Like, can you disrupt yourselves enough? I mean, there's a lot of research around this, like Crossing the Chasm and Innovator's Dilemma, both kind of talk about how do companies kind of disrupt themselves. And what's interesting is where Alteryx has been, which is a, you know, low code, no code, easy to use business business analyst interface for how to interact with data. You know, we have a lot of this trust built in over 20 years, the traceability, the auditability, the lineage, the visual understanding of, you know, what's going from here to here and who's allowed to see it, the permissions built in. Now that logic is just transitioning to be in front of and behind of a GPT. So we're doing all the checking. We basically programmed the human logic or the human in the loop before and after the data goes in and out of the GPT. And we're doing the check via the tool set that we already have built that's based on trust and data and lineage and privacy and permissions and all the auditability and traceability that we've been doing for a long time. So if we're able to really successfully make that transition, that really centers us nicely in the center of the world of trust and AI. And we're not the UI anymore.
Right.
That's where we were for a really long time. But now we're the trusted logic between the UI and the model.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that response. And as you talk about disruption within your business, correct me if I'm wrong here, Alteryx has been fairly on-prem and cloud-based, right? Is there a bigger shift all the way to the cloud to maximize the benefit of the solution?
Yeah, we've been a very good on-prem company for a very long time.
Yeah. Which is saying something, right?
Yes,
Which is saying something.
Yes, and a lot of reasons behind that. You know, just the way that our software is deployed and users like to use it. And we are on a journey to, you know, more SaaS-based experiences. And we're, probably 3 years into that journey. And we're in that now. So we actually, as part of our go-to-market transformation and, kind of speaking to, the margin element and finding wins in the margins. I always call it game of inches, by the way. I've covered that
Oh, I love that.
my whole career. Like,
Totally.
those little things that over
Yes.
time make a big difference. To help us with the shift, we've introduced a new pricing and packaging model that is more capability based. So it doesn't necessarily matter how many users you have or how many desktop licenses. We're moving to more of like a capability model where you're buying based on value and the capability that you get. And then that also has, with it come some natural price increases because we're obviously talking much more about capabilities and as opposed to, one user licenses. So that transition to what we're calling Alteryx One, which is a capability-based model, is also really helping kind of take the migration pain out of it, take the immediate decision pain from customers on what do they want to buy? Do they want to buy on-prem or cloud? We're kind of taking that out of the conversation, adding a lot more flexibility and choice for customers for what they want to use, when and how, and kind of meeting them where they are, not forcing them into certain technologies. That's been also great learnings for me as well, to figure out how to pivot a go-to-market organization to a completely new pricing and packaging model from, how many user licenses do you want? 5, which is where we've been living for a really long time. It's eased our transition to the cloud. It's eased our transition to AI and also made us a lot more operationally sticky in our customer environments because of the capability-based approach that we're going toward.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more folks move away from obviously user license for many reasons. Forgive the ignorance in this questions, but how does capability based versus consumption based look? Like, what are they similar? Are they different?
Yeah, they're absolutely related. So when I say capabilities, I guess I mean kind of. I'll make it really tactical because I know you like tactics.
Thank you.
What are the features behind what gives you that capability? So is it like advanced AI features? Is it automation features? So kind of just bringing it back to features and functionality, like the high-end capabilities are kind of the higher end type of innovation that we have. And then consumption is part of our model too. So in Alteryx, we have the idea of a run, which is a workflow that you execute that does all that fancy logic that I talked about before that helps your LLM be even better. So now we charge by run as well. So we've moved a lot, part of that is comp plans as well, to capability-based and consumption-based pricing for our customers.
Thank you for breaking that down. So as I'm thinking about the change that you're all going through, and I think about customer sentiment, right? How are you partnering with your CRO and your sales organization to make sure that you're driving the change that's right for the customer, yet is growing the business of Alteryx?
Right. It's hard. I mean, not all customers like this change, and that's totally fair. And Alteryx remains a, very customer-centric organization. For most of our customers, they love it. It makes sense. A lot of other vendors have gone this way as well. We want Alteryx to be easy and fun to do business with. And so, a lot of it comes down to talking to the customers about, why we made these changes, why it's better for them, why it's simpler for them, why it sets them up better. It's all about the customer for long-term success and making sure our teams were really able to articulate that advantage to the customer. For customers that still need, more support or for whatever reason, we bring in executives and make sure to get executive alignment through this change. But keeping this customer at the center of every vendor change is very, very important. You never want a customer to feel forced to do something. You want them to feel understood. You want them aligned with your executives. You want their executives aligned with your executives. So we are, slowly but surely making the change. And we have customers on our new pricing and packaging. We have renewals on our new pricing and packaging. And we're bringing customers along in a really thoughtful way.
Yeah, I love that response as well. So as you think about, driving the business to these next goals, right? Going from, billion to multi-billion-dollar business. What do you think is the 1 or 2 things that are in your way as a leader on achieving those goals?
It's a good question. When I think about, scaling from 1 to 2 billion, there's probably a few ways to get there. One is achieving more efficiencies and productivity gains in your organization. So, we're getting there without hiring more people. That's one. And I think this V2MOM element of finding 20% productivity improvements AI will help that. One is getting into more departments at our customers. So, we need to find ways we traditionally sell to finance teams. So we're very familiar in the finance tax world, line of business, CFO down. And in a lot of ways, this AI wave has helped make our technology much more relevant to every department.
Yep.
So, thinking through how to get our seller solutions engineers and CX okay with going to other departments with this value pitch. That's a pretty big skills transformation that we're working through right now. How do you go talk to marketing and sales about the value of Alteryx and their AI strategy, just like we're so good at it in finance. So I think that's our next big area of growth to capture. And then I think the third is monetizing innovation, monetizing AI. Maybe it has to do with M&A, but kind of having more things to sell. So one would be finding productivity gains internally to get to that 2 billion revenue growth. Two would be getting new buyers, new hands on keyboards, new departments, finding value, expanding within the account. And then third is more things to sell and monetizations of new innovation, which could mean M&A or it could mean monetizing our own latest innovation better and making sure that that's selling new stuff is also driving growth.
Okay. And I guess, how about the channel? How about the partner and the ecosystem? As you mentioned, it's very important to your business. And so how are you thinking about that as solutions leader? Because I asked this question because I feel like there's so many solutions leaders that have always felt like channel partners is just such a black box for them. So I'm curious how you're approaching that.
I think it's very, very important. I think, in fact, as I've, kind of been reflecting on other companies and where I see them, in their growth, there's a lot of hype in the market right now and sort of hyper growth in some places. And I always think about these companies that are in their hyper growth cycle. And what I see time and time again is if they don't get their channel strategy right as the foundation and that step one of like the 0 to 200 million, longer down the road, that's going to set them up for failure in the 1 to 2 billion. You really need to get your channel strategy very right. And it's an area that Alteryx is continuing to work on. Traditionally, we've had sort of a co-sell, resell model with finance type partners. And now we're finding that the tech ecosystem is really, really important to us. The hyperscalers, the cloud data platforms, as well as like what I said before, sort of talking about our new value prop in this world of AI is we can help you trust your LLM more is a really basic way to put it. So, we're looking at partnerships with, all of the major LLMs and, vector database technologies that can help you do RAG even better in the way that Alteryx does it. So it's very important. And if any company came to me that was in there like 0 to 200, I would tell them you really need to get your scale through the channel right and put really good people there, really good technical solutions engineers there, and help them scale your business. That needs to be part of like foundation day one for how to build a business.
And I love that response because I don't think that's the norm, right? I think about myself in my early careers, it was always like, it's such a black box. I don't really want to mess with it. I've seen success over in these parts of the business. We'll just kind of let that thing, work. But as you're right, as you get to that level of scale, you're going to hope that you've invested in it effectively.
Right, exactly. Because what happens is you get to the $200, $300, $400, $500 million mark, and all you're doing is throwing money at heads for growth. And that doesn't get you from 1 to 2. Like it gets very expensive, very fast. Your growth eventually slows down. You have to find growth levers in different places. And if you have an army of people that you're paying, you're not going to be able to do it. So like the channel strategy really needs to be a fabric, and solutions engineering leaders really need to understand, what those partners and alliances solutions team do and the value that they add.
Unbelievable. Sharon, this has been such a great conversation. I want to keep going. I have so many questions for you.
Do it again.
Let me ask one final question though.
Okay.
Let's make it like a bet question, right? So is there a big bet that you're making right now that you feel is very unconventional that will be more, standard in the next couple of years?
I think it's that idea of going back to your other guest around talking about the UI. I think it's really flipping how we work with data on its heads and how we talk to data and work with data, and challenging myself on the way that I run my business today with things like Salesforce and Tableau and Gainsight. What would happen if I didn't have those interfaces? And then what is the art of the possible if that went all agentic, and what does that look like? And so I'm thinking a lot about that and, trying to get the organization thinking differently going that way as well as, in partnership with that product team.
Yeah, fantastic response. I'll just comment that I think what I've been seeing on my own side is this build versus buy, right? Like this build versus buy. And if organizations can start building a lot of these capabilities internally, using products like Alteryx to be able to get those gains, do we need UI layers? Do we need these apps that we've been, building an ecosystem around? Because what are we actually looking to get? It's insights from the data at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's what we're doing, with the AI specialization team. I have to leave you with something to do as solutions engineering leaders, like really get that organic curiosity around AI and agentic AI going in your organization. Understand who your thought leaders are, who are your sales engineers that are really leading the charge, help connect them to an agentic COE, and then make sure you're doing really good C-level communication around it.
Wonderful. Great way to end. So Sharon, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and good luck the rest of the way.
You too.